Should a biological male be allowed to compete in girls' sports in Ohio? One sentence.
No. That's just silly. We have to respect and love the girls and women in our lives, and we are genetically, we are physically, we are psychologically. Like there's people who study the brain, they can be shown two brains and the way that those brains are neurologically reacting to different stimuli. And they can identify with a 99.9% accuracy rate, that's a boy and that's a girl. The way that we are made is just simply different. Let's respect and celebrate those differences. But boys, because they are physically made differently, should not be competing in women's sports.
Why is it always boys and girls sports? Why aren't girls competing in boys sports? Or is it happening? We just don't hear about it as much.
I mean, I don't hear about that happening at all. And I think it's, you took Lia Thomas, for example, the swimmer there, in college, who competed against Riley Gaines. And of course, Riley gained a lot of popularity because of, she fought back against, I can't remember his Michael Thomas, I think maybe was his name, but, he was finishing towards the bottom of the pack, competing against the men. Join women's sports, he starts winning a lot of women's races. And so I think you see that because with the whole transgender issue, I think you also see more men transitioning to be women than you see the other way around. Why that is, I don't know. I think there's something psychological there. Something cultural as well. And maybe it's because we're living in a time of a crisis of masculinity. What does it truly mean to be a man? That we're struggling. Some men are struggling to try to figure that out. And so they're even looking in some strange places to do that. Last point I'll make on this. Bishop Barron talks about like the phenomenon of Halloween today. And I don't know about you. I don't like Halloween in our country today. I mean, you go into our neighborhood and there is those big skeletons like 10 feet tall and everybody celebrates it like Christmas, right? Well, Barron says like when we push down the truth, the need of the spiritual, the need of a connection with God, and we suppress it, it oozes out in all these weird ways. And so Halloween is an example. We need a connection with death as humans. We need a connection with the afterlife, with something greater than ourselves. But because we repress it and we're not going to church, it oozes out in Halloween and all these kind of weird phenomenon. I think in the same way, because we need an understanding of our identity and our purpose with God the Father, we don't have it. When we suppress it or we look other ways, it oozes out in these really weird ways. Like maybe I'm in the wrong.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'm curious. Like there aren't as many women competing in men's sports. I'm sure there are some. It also seems like you mostly hear on the news about men transitioning to be women, not vice versa. I'm sure it's happening, just not as much.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder why that is.
Well, again, I'm going to opine on subjects I'm not experts on, but we have seen, for whatever reason, in our country, there's been some studies out there that have shown, men's testosterone rates are also dropping. Decreasing.
Yeah.
What's going on in our environment? We do know that there's a lot of plastics in our body. We do know that there's, a lot of contraceptives that have now pervaded, even our water systems. I mean, if we're taking those in, that's becoming a part of our body. We're flushing down the toilet. Students for Life has done a lot of work on this. I haven't read a lot of the research, but it kind of makes sense. If we're polluting the very world in which we inhabit with a lot of things that would affect our very makeup as human persons, the plastics, the contraceptives, all of that, I would think is going to have an effect on us in one way, shape, or form.
You would think, yeah, I don't know. The plastic thing is just personally hard for me to get rid of because it's convenient. It's nice. It doesn't break. The metal, the glass, it's so expensive. It's noisy. It breaks.
Yeah, I love plastics, but is it affecting us? It might be.